And thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. I'm excited you were able to come on here. I've been wanting to ask you to be a guest for a while, but I know working in the field, you don't really have a lot of free time.
Right, yeah, and I've always seen you come across my For You page and everything, so I was like hoping one day y'all would reach out for me to come. So,
That really worked out because, it's harder for me to get the guys that are in the field that work in hitches, but they're also, a lot of the times the best stories and the
right.
greatest conversations.
Yeah, and you never know. Like sometimes you might have a schedule. It happens to me all the time where you're supposed to be gone for maybe 2 weeks, right? And then sometimes it ends up being more like 3 or 4 weeks, So
Right.
you just never know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, so when we connected and we really kind of got to talking about what you do, and I didn't realize you'd been in the industry as long as you have.
Yeah,
27 years.
yeah, a long time.
That is a long time. And you seem like you're really established with what you do in completions as a
Right.
consultant, right?
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
And is that something that you aspired to do, or did that just kind of come as a natural
Just
transition?
kind of came as a natural transition. I really coming up, I just kind of went with the flow of things, and just kind of let things fall into place. Like I tell everybody, all the good things come whenever you don't really try,
Mm-hmm.
and it just kind of happened to fall into my lap. But of course, with good mentors and things along the way.
Right. And okay, so you've been in the industry 27 years and you started out where you
As a roustabout offshore
roused about offshore.
on a drilling rig.
Wow. Was that intimidating to do?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Like your first day ever, not having any experience. You get on a helicopter and you're flying over the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America now. Excuse me.
Isn't that so
Right? Yeah,
wild
it's
to
hard to say
say?
now
It's
because
weird to see it written
right.
where it's actually been adopted. Like on
Yeah.
Google Maps, it says Gulf of
Yeah, I don't
America.
know if I need to go change that on my resume or not because it says Gulf of Mexico
Oh,
still.
interesting.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah. So yeah, it's a little intimidating. You're flying out and you're like looking out the window of the helicopter and you're like, holy crap, what did I just get myself into?
That
But
would
you
be
see all the
scary.
lights and everything of the rigs you're
Mm-hmm.
flying over. Then you finally land on the rig and you actually see it for like the first time. You're like, oh my gosh, like looking around and everything's foreign to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a clue of what's going on. You don't have any experience. You're there and you're just gonna have to go with it.
Well, and it's no quick turnaround either. If you decided you didn't like it or you didn't want to do it, like that's a journey to get out
Yeah,
actually onto the rig.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and they got to call a helicopter to come pick you up or a boat. I've seen it happen. I've seen guys get off, look around, say, "Yep, this ain't for me," and get right back on the helicopter.
Yeah, I could see that's probably fairly
Yeah.
common because I mean, we talked about that the other day where, guys will show up just on location and they don't make it through safety training.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've had friends that try to get jobs and don't even make it past the third day.
And I mean, I can relate to that because it is intimidating. It's a lot. It's a lot just to get to the location, just to get through your paperwork, your orientation, and understanding what the job is. But then when you're actually putting in those hours, and I mean, people know themselves. Like, you either can make it and work through it, or if from the jump you can't,
Right.
like, you're not going to, you're not willing to learn, you're not willing to stick it out.
And like I tell everybody, it's a mental game. Once it gets in your head and you let it get to you, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You have to stay focused. You have to stay driven. You have to have things that distract you because I mean it is hard.
Yeah.
A lot of days are harder than others.
Mm-hmm. And it can depend. I mean, there's a lot of different variables that can make it hard. It doesn't really even have to be the actual work you're
Yeah,
doing.
right.
It could be the people you're working with. It could be the weather. I mean, especially in West Texas, I mean, it's harder when the wind blows or when it's super hot or super cold, and just not really having any way to get out of that.
Yeah,
It's so constant.
right. I mean there's just a ton of things really. You know, I mean there can be things that's going on at home.
Yeah, that too.
I've had people that I've thoroughly did not enjoy working with. Conditions suck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just a lot of things play up. To really taking a toll on you.
Well, and that there can be a flip side to that. It could be
Yeah,
so fun and a great time. You're working with all your friends or people that you really get along with, or saying there could be things going on at home that are great.
right.
But that's one of the most challenging aspects is maintaining a family. That was something that you'd mentioned when we talked before
Yes,
about
absolutely.
how 90% of the time that family dynamic is not going to work out if you're not set up for it, if you don't have an understanding spouse, if you're not used to being on the road. And so if you have something that's falling apart, and then you're trying to work and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're on location,
Yeah.
and you're just trying to balance that mentally. It can be very draining.
Very. And you know, a lot of times, like, communications are poor out there. You know, there's some days you don't have phone service.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Wi-Fi could be down, so you have no email, no text messages, no phone calls. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, I mean, it's like you said. You know, if you're not prepared for it, yeah, it's gonna get the best of you.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna get the best of your family and everything else back home as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of advice I give these young guys coming up is, you know, the first thing I ask them is like, hey, do you have like a home life with family and things like that? Because if you do, you really need to have a chit chat and be prepared for what's coming, because once you walk out the door, you may not come through that door for weeks at a time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
And it's easier said than done. You know, it's like the money's good, the if the work is there, but when you're actually living it every day, those weeks can get long
Oh yeah,
and lonely.
yeah. I know. Towards the end of my hitches, I'm I'm checked out.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
some
you
hitches
need
are longer
you're
than others.
done. You're
Yeah,
just you're ready to go, take a
right.
break and get rejuvenated.
It's like your mind is like, it knows it's getting closer to the house, so it's just kind of starts shutting off. You know, and you're just kind of like, yeah, start becoming nonchalant about things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I've so many guys that I've worked with, and especially around the holidays, like knowing it's coming,
Yeah,
work productivity slows down, welding gets slower, and I mean, just that drive, it's just it's not there.
yeah.
When you're anticipating that time off, it just the hours drag on.
Right. And it's like, if you're not used to working holidays, it'll really get to you too. Like,
Yeah.
definitely mentally and stuff, and especially with all of the access to like social media we have and things nowadays.
Mhm.
You know, you start scrolling through your Facebook or through your Instagram or your TikToks or whatever, and you'll just start seeing people at home with their families and stuff, and that
Mhm.
really tears at you as well.
Yeah, that would be
You know?
tough because you're missing out. And then if you don't
Right.
have a family or you're, having problems with your family, that can make it even worse. So it's
Yep.
like you're not just missing out on being with your family, then you're fighting through all of these problems. And I've seen that too. It's like you be having a good day and then you get a phone call or a text message with, some adverse relationship in your
Yep.
personal life, and it can just ruin everything for someone because you're already like a lot of times you're teetering on that balance anyway of being on location, struggling mentally, just trying to keep yourself together, and then you have these dynamics that are just wearing you down.
Yeah.
And in a split second, it can just completely, I mean, guys drag up all the time, like
Every
just
day.
can't deal with it anymore.
Yep. And
Just gone.
it seems like when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times it seems like you have something going on at home, then something's happening at work at the same time, and they just kind of collide and clash,
Yeah.
and that's when it really gets tough too. And it depends on like what you truly do, like with your job description or what you do. I mean, a lot of times you work under pressure, you know, and you have to be very vigilant, very focused on what you're doing, because you know, one wrong turn, one wrong move,
Yeah.
right, something bad could happen.
Yeah, and that's where I've always seen it where a lot of workplace accidents, it's either complacency or your head's not in the game for one reason or another, or just not paying attention. And so those mental challenges can be the distraction.
Yeah, I always say complacency kills.
Yeah, I've said that before
Yeah.
too, and I've heard that a lot, and it's true because you get into that muscle memory, and then also if you're not really caring about it for one reason or another, and you're on the same location 10, 12 hours a day,
Yep.
14 hours, you get used to the same things being there,
Right.
and then suddenly maybe there's a hole that's been dug that wasn't there before, or some
Yeah.
obstacle
Oh
that
yeah.
you didn't have previously,
Right.
and it's like if you're not really focused, then your reaction time slows down.
Yep. You just go through the motions, you know. And a lot of things I tell people is, you know, I'll walk out the trailer or out the office, and I tend to like go the same way. So I'll have to make myself go the different way when I'm walking around location or whatever, so that way I can. It's just different, right? I might see something different that I didn't see before while I'm
That's
going
true.
this way or that way. So I
Yeah.
try to kind of switch it up and do things differently because like I say, you get complacent and then you walk out and you just keep going the same direction as you always do. So sometimes you need to walk the other direction too, right?
Yeah, no,
And then
that's
you start
a
noticing things. You're like, oh,
yeah,
I
no,
didn't see
that's
that.
good because you got to change it up
Right,
because I mean, slip, trips, and falls, and pinch points, and all of those things, like all of those small little nuances that we face
right,
in the field. If you force yourself to look at things differently or go in a different direction, you're more likely to avoid
right.
those types
Yeah,
of hazards.
absolutely.
So, over the years that you've been in the industry, I mean, starting out, you're on the helicopter, you're going out to your first
Yeah,
rig to, now actually, being able to be on a site and manage it and know it as well as you do.
right.
What like has kind of kept you focused and centered and grounded all of these years to be successful in the industry?
Just I think I thrive under pressure and I thrive challenges. Like I like being put in situations that I know that it's going to make me think and have critical thinking, problem solving. I'm always trying to be like solution focused on things. So I just like knowing like every day is not going to be the same day. A lot of times like someone goes to like an office job or whatever, it might be the same routine every day, same this, same that. In our industry, you never know.
Yeah.
Especially like completions, right? You're fracking, every stage is different. Every well is different. You know, challenges pop up all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just being ready for them and being able to react and being able to troubleshoot things like that because I'm ADHD, right? So if something doesn't have my attention, I'm done, you know?
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
Right.
And because there are other parts of the industry that are a little bit slower paced
Yeah.
and a little bit less going on.
Right.
And so if you have the type of personality where you want the obstacles and the challenges because it keeps you engaged,
Right.
then, that's also always pushing you to grow and be more aware of what's going on so that you can manage it.
Absolutely. And it builds for like being able to mentor and teach people too, like along the way, right? Because you can be like, oh, I've been in that situation before. And then you can, kind of help them out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome because, that's something that I see in the industry. I love when I see the mentorship and the guidance and the support because, I mean, you and I both know, and we've talked about this, where there's a lot of negativity within the industry and, with being critical on people and being judgmental and being outspoken in a very negative way. And so, when we encourage the younger generation or you find people that you can help grow and thrive, you're really able to mitigate a lot of that inner like infighting within the industry to
Right.
help build it up because it's hard enough.
Yeah. And for me, like I built my whole platform around, wanting to be somebody that can be approachable, right? And coach these guys through things. That's one thing that I strive for, right? Is to be approachable because a lot of these guys are not,
Hmm.
or they act like they don't have time for you or whatever. But for
Yeah.
me, it's like I can take time to show people how to do things and the processes and help them understand and show them, okay, like, hey, this is a hazard. This is what could happen if this happens or
Hmm.
whatever, and how to prevent that or whatever. But just knowing the overall operation from every standpoint
Yeah.
possible makes us stronger as a team. And I don't think people really truly grasp that or realize that.
Yeah.
And you never know, like you could spark somebody, like somebody sparks me one day, be like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
and really just take off. Some people stay stagnant, but then, I think when people have a spark and, have somebody behind them that pushes them and give them a little bit of hope,
Hmm.
they excel.
Yeah, and I love that you say that because that's what I'd always strived for in the field was I just wanted to understand more of what we were doing
Right.
because I think that having an understanding is motivating because you can not just learn more, but then you can learn how to do more yourself.
Yeah.
And you're not just reacting to somebody telling you to go get a hammer, a shovel, or some tool. It's like you can actually be a little bit more engaged. And in my experience, I think there's a lot of people that, well, nobody taught me and I'm not going to teach you. So there's that very old school mindset that you have to figure it out yourself. Or there's a lot of guys that just don't know themselves. And the more they try and explain it to you, the more they're going to reveal that.
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
not going to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you wouldn't want them to, but it's like that's part of the reason you don't see some of that training is because they
Right.
don't know to be able to explain it like
Yeah.
you're saying.
And for me, I feel like I have a connection with guys because I've been there. I've been the hand. I still am. I still consider myself one. But, I've been the guy that's been in the dead heat of summer
Yeah.
wanting to be the guy in the office, or,
Yeah.
wonder what I got myself into. And I can just relate to them and kind of know what they're going with, what the struggles are,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. And it makes it easier to be a leader as well, as opposed to someone comes out straight out of school. Nothing wrong with going to school, but as somebody that comes out and starts pointing fingers, that's never actually done the groundwork,
Mm-hmm.
and been boots on the
Yeah,
ground.
because there's no substitute for that field experience.
Right.
Not just in knowledge, because you can be book smart, you can have all this education, and I mean, there's definitely a place for that. But when you don't know those types of struggles and you don't know what it's like to be on location, like you're not you're not in a company truck coming and going.
Right.
You're not just showing up on location. It's like when your job is the safety meetings at 7 o'clock, you take a break at 9, lunch is 30 minutes, 3 o'clock can't come soon enough, and you're constantly anticipating, 5 or 7 or however long you're working. If you don't know that kind of schedule, you can't relate to it.
Yeah.
You just
Right.
can't. And it's something that when you come from the blue collar world, or basically just show up and you're just thankful to have a job,
Yeah.
it's the mindset and the mentality is a lot
Right.
different. And so you can't, like you're saying, it's like you can still relate to those guys, because even though you've thrived and you've gotten to this position in your career, you know where you started and you won't ever forget what that was
No,
like.
I mean, I'm not afraid to go back, and that's me,
Yeah,
right? I
and
mean, I'll go pick
that's
up rocks. I'm gonna be the
sure.
best guy that picks up the rocks on location.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how I'm wired,
Oh, I've started over more than
Yeah.
once, and thinking I was done and I wasn't, because it's
Yeah.
like that field experience. It's like sometimes you think that you've learned as much as you needed to, but we never stop learning. I mean, there's always something new to learn, but there's also, value in putting in your time.
Yeah. I mean, the day you stop learning is probably the day you need to quit, because that's the day you're gonna get killed,
Yeah,
or the next day. But you know what I mean?
absolutely.
Like, I always learn stuff, even from guys that are like brand new and green. Like, I'm always asking questions because they have a brand new set of eyes,
Yeah.
maybe, new ideas or what have you. And like, hey, what do you see?
Mm-hmm.
And then we can incorporate that and put it into our system or
That
whatever,
is
right?
that's a very good quality as a leader, like being able to get someone else's perspective, especially with the new generation, because they are seeing it like not just a fresh set of eyes, but it's like a fresh set of understanding.
Right.
And
Yep.
that can, I keep seeing this and thinking this, that it's like we're in this integration era of the wisdom and the experience of people that have been in the industry, the veterans, and this new generation coming up, that it's like we are doing things differently, whether we want to or not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of efficiency happening, a lot of technology where a lot of it's really valuable and helpful for us, being able to communicate and being able to, be a little bit more organized, or even educating
Yeah.
yourself. If there's
Absolutely.
something that you don't want to ask the question, you can
Right.
easily look it up or find the answer. But, it's also respecting the way things have been done
Right.
to a degree, and understanding that, like, what built this in the first
Yeah.
place.
I know for me, I'm not afraid to tell somebody, like, hey, y'all are the subject matter expert on this. I don't do this every day. I've got
Mm-hmm.
a general idea of what we're doing, but I'm going to lean on you guys. And I'm still going to learn from y'all, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
because, and that's part of cross training and stuff too that makes you stronger too in this industry is, kind of like I said before, getting put into like positions and situations that you're not used to being in that make you critically think and have
Mm-hmm.
to be on your toes and really see what you're made of.
Yeah, being able to see what you're made
Right.
of. That is a big part of it.
Yes.
That grit and that showing up every day, and just, I mean, because, I mean, being an equipment operator in the field and being a female, and certain things I knew how to do and I was very confident in, and other things where I'm like, I have never done this before. I don't
Yeah.
understand, and not necessarily having somebody that's going to walk me through it, but being able to get myself through it and saying I can do that,
Right.
and being able to, stand on my own 2 feet. And so I think that you need to find that strength within yourself, but then also not being afraid to say, like, hey, this is a little bit out of my depth. I could use some help here. Or if somebody says, hey, you look like you need some help, that's definitely happened with some heavy critical
Yeah.
lifts where it was, above my level of expertise. But then I
Right.
was able to watch an operator do it and I understood it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I can do that
I'm
now.
visual.
Visual
I learned a
helps.
lot by just being visual, just
Mm-hmm.
sitting back and just keeping my mouth shut and just watching. you know. And
Watching
then
is
asking
huge.
questions at the right time. You know, there's right and wrong times to ask questions, but
Absolutely.
yeah,
And you'll learn quick what they are.
yes, yeah.
Well, when did you start the whole Blue Collar Standard brand? I mean, because that
Um,
seems like it's part of
I think it
the
was
journey.
2022 is when I started it. I knew like I got on TikTok and started doing fairly well. And I've always kind of wanted to have like a little brand, so I was like, you know, why not monetize off of it now? So that's what I did. I just kind of went for it. Got this idea and had some designs made, and then had them put on some hats and shirts, and then started kind of doing decent with it, and something I enjoy doing, you know. So
Yeah. That's when I discovered you on TikTok. The name caught my eye because it's not something I feel like we see enough of as far as, it's like people are always advocating to go to college for 4 years. And when you think trade school, you're like, oh, well, they can't make it
right,
in college. Like there's always this derogatory or, there's just this taboo about, trades, which doesn't make sense. And it's really not, it's not really a fair assessment because it's like there are people that go to college and thrive and there are people that go into the trades and thrive, but there's not enough advocacy for it. And so when I see advocacy for the blue collar lifestyle, there's a respect to it, that foundation of you can build yourself from absolutely nothing, that this you can work with your hands and be super successful, and it's something to be proud of.
right. Yeah, I agree, and I think it's grown a lot, especially in the last few years with like more blue collar. I guess you'd call them influencers or
Yeah,
content creators or whatever. It's really
I'm
starting to
seeing
come
more of
about.
it
Yeah,
too.
yeah, me too. And it's definitely growing.
Yeah, I like it because it's also because you see there's so much when it comes to the industry and the way we're moving in the industry where you're hearing more and more like we need more people in the trades. We need more welders, electricians, and people filling these roles. It's like, well, we need the younger generation to want to do those things.
Right. Yeah.
And so, having those positive influences and seeing guys that have worked their way through the industry and they've built themselves up, from like being a roustabout and being able to really do something with it and be able to thrive, like whether you just show up with the job or you go to trade school, it's really just for that individual.
Right.
But I think it's important to show what's possible because that is what's going to make people want to do it, not just saying it's needed, but it's like look at how great this life can
Right.
be.
And it has two positives to it, right? So if you're like an electrician, a plumber, or something like that within those trades, you can utilize that in various aspects of your life, right? I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, you might have your main job, but at that you at home you can fix things on your own without having to
Right.
call somebody,
Yep.
right? Or side work.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of positives to it, you know. I mean, and it's like nothing against bankers or anything like that, but say you work at a bank and you're a teller, you can only be a teller at the bank,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you have different adversities within different trades and things and know how to do things.
Hmm.
I think you become more of an asset and more valuable.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you framed it. And in the blue collar world, you typically have guys that know how to do more on their own. Like you
Right.
can change a tire. You can, like you said, you can do the repairs at home because not necessarily that you've been doing that, but you learn those survival skills. You
Right.
you figure out how it works and you want to do things on your own because you don't want to just have to, look up a handyman every time you have a leaky faucet.
Yeah, and it costs a lot of money,
And it costs a lot of
right?
money. They may not even do a good job.
Yeah.
They may not even do it right.
Yeah, going back to the whole blue collar standard thing, right? Because I was outsourcing my work for like all my designs and everything. And then finally, I was like, man, this is starting to cost me a lot of money.
Hmm.
So I figured out how to do graphic design and worked like Adobe Illustrator, Photoshops, all that, and do a lot of the clothing and things myself too, and how to market it
Oh,
and
that's fun.
all that. Yeah, so it's
Hmm.
taking you know things that I was spending money on and actually making myself more valuable as well. And
Yeah.
people have come to me now. It's like, hey, can you help me design this, or how do you start a brand, or this and that. So it's like I'm able to kind of consult that too.
Oh, very
Right?
cool. Yeah, I see how that kind of again with the cross training.
Yeah,
It's like just you taught yourself how to do it, and
yeah,
so now you can teach someone else how
right.
they can be successful too.
Yeah, and you got so many tools nowadays. with YouTube University being one of them, right?
Huge.
And
Yeah, Chat
anything,
GPT, you got a
yes,
question,
you
type
have
it in.
AI, Google, anything you want to learn's
Mm-hmm.
out there.
It is, and I've done a lot of that with my podcast where it's like, I've had definitely help on it in the beginning, but I'm like,
Yeah,
this isn't reflecting what I'm trying to
right.
do. But it's funny because I remember like certain things that are just second nature to me now because a lot of what I do is just on my phone.
Yep.
And that was a goal I had. I'm like, I want to be successful. I want to be remote. I want to, I was looking at all these different things I wanted, especially after like I was in the field. I've worked 12, 14, 16-hour days. I've done it. Okay, I've done 7 days a week, and it's awesome, and I would do it again. And I've, like I said, I've started over more than once,
Yeah.
thinking that I'm
Oh
out
yeah.
of the field now, I'm done, and then I'm like right back out there with something else, and that's the oil field for you too.
Right.
But once I started my podcast and it grew, it's like, okay, I want to be able to be creative and be independent, but so many things would be intimidating at first. I'm like, I don't know how to use Canva. I don't know how to make a YouTube thumbnail. I don't know what I'm doing on
Right.
TikTok.
But that's the fun part about it is figuring it out, and then like once you hit it, you're like, wow, I did
That
that, right?
confidence, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a dopamine
Well,
hit.
it's like whenever I did TikTok, I wasn't very savvy on social media. I think we had some downtime at work, and I never had TikTok, nothing like that before. But all the guys were like, "Hey, man,
Me
watch
too,
that,
yeah.
right? Do this, watch this," and I'm like, "Well, I don't have it," so I got it, and I know I had a piece of crap iPhone, and I set it up and like made this dumb skit off the top of my head in like 2 or 3 minutes, and I got off, and I didn't think nothing of it. And like a week went by, and everyone's like, "Brian, you're going mega viral." Like, I'm like, "What?" They're like, "You're everywhere." I signed back into TikTok and had literally like 5 million notifications, like not even exaggerating,
Wow.
right? And I was like, "Dang, I did something," right?
Yeah.
Without even trying, not even knowing
Mm-hmm.
what I'm doing, and then kind of delved in from there and started figuring things out, But it's like once you hit it, and you're like, "Wow, that's cool. I did that,"
It is
right?
cool. Yeah, once I figured it out, then that confidence gets addictive because then you're like, okay, I know I struggled before and I figured it out, and it's like you
Yeah,
you know kind of have that like own like internal dialogue where it's like you believe in yourself, you know that you can do it.
right.
And I mean, I've tried different things where I'm like, I'm just not feeling this or this isn't
Yeah,
for me, and then you can make that
yep.
decision.
And you can grow off of like what you've learned, and or say you watch somebody do something and then just kind of make it your own flavor.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that's kind of how I do things or tweak things. And
Yeah,
I mean I don't think there's really any wrong way to skin a cat. You just
right.
that's what makes it you.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that's something when I decided to do my podcast, I knew that it was going to be a LinkedIn business development networking tool,
Yeah.
and I also wanted it to be a platform for the TikTok blue collar oilfield community.
Right.
And when I saw a lot of the influencers and the different guys on there making their welding videos and doing different things like what you had going on, selling products and services, I'm like, this is healthy. As negative as it can be, it's
Yeah.
like this is something because when I was in the field, this was before LinkedIn, this was before like whatever. It was after flip phones. Like I did have an iPhone, but there wasn't a lot of that. There wasn't that instant connection.
Right.
And I think because we in the oil and gas industry, a lot of it is so remote and everybody is separate that it's a way to be connected and also to be creative. And so then it's like you see different things and then you're having fun. And so I think it can be very revitalizing for your mental
For
health.
sure. Yeah.
But there's also, the downside to it because there's the negative influence, but you have to see beyond that. And
Yeah.
you have to carve out your own space, which is what I've done. I don't tolerate negativity on my show and
Right.
people commenting on it. And I mean, for the most part, I don't get a lot of
Yep.
negativity, but
And
I don't seek that kind of controversy.
right. Yeah. And and sometimes you can put out a positive message, and you're gonna get people out there that just want to troll you.
Yeah.
And like I told you earlier, like this year has been really kind of a slow one for me as far as like content and getting new apparel and merchandise out. It's just because I'm going through this whole. It just kind of mentally broke me down. You see so many comments that are like negative towards you, and I don't care how thick your skin is or what. I mean, you see enough of it, it's gonna break you down, and it
Yeah.
makes you just kind of not want to do it. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what I've been going through this year. So, I mean, if anybody sees this podcast and wants to know why I've been kind of distant this year, that's why.
Yeah.
Is trying to really find a purpose again and the motivation to wake up and even want to make content, because it takes a lot of work to make
Yes, it
content,
does.
right?
I have had peaks and valleys myself just with
Yep.
this because it's like, is it even worth
It's
it?
time consuming.
It's so
Hours.
the creative part is fun, but it's also it's draining in a different way. It's like
Yes.
working an hourly job versus making content where you're vulnerable, you're investing yourself into it, you're thinking about how you're going to put it out there and then like actually putting it together.
Yep.
It's like I've gotten a lot, like my discipline's gotten sharper, the way I pick out my clips, the way I describe them. But in the beginning, I'm like, what am I even saying about this? What am I trying to do with it? And so then you're questioning yourself along with just trying to get out some good content. I mean,
Right.
it's not always just about trying to get something that does well. It's what are you trying to do with it? Who are you in this process?
Right.
So that learning process can be very taxing.
Yeah. And a lot of my content is just like an average of overall conversations I have with people. And it's kind of like, man, I've heard and talked about this a lot lately. So I go talk about it,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah,
And
that's true.
and some of it is controversial, right?
Mhm.
Or some people might think I'm gearing it straight towards them, but I'm not.
Mhm.
Or I feel like it's the people that feel like convicted of something that I'm saying
Right.
come after me,
Yeah, I could
right?
see that.
And I'm like, I'm not picking anybody out in general. It's just
Mhm.
overall general conversations I have with, you know, different people within our fields and trades that I see as like a common denominator, I guess you would say, or a factor. And I'm like, and
Yeah.
I talk about it, right?
Yeah, no, and I think because you are very direct, and I've watched a lot of, and I've agree with a lot of your videos where it's like, yeah, that really happens in the industry, and
Yes.
it's like there are certain things that happen in our industry that it's just a cancer that just doesn't stop because you see it in different sectors, you see it in different parts where it's like, you've all these people have worked for years and they deserve the raise, they deserve more money, they deserve the promotion, but it goes to somebody's buddy or it goes to somebody that just showed up, and
Yep.
it breeds this resentment and animosity, but then you're not supposed to talk about it and it's just supposed to be
And I
accepted.
will talk about
And
it.
you
That is
absolutely
one thing I am
will.
not afraid to do is say something like,
Yeah.
hey, why is this guy over here with hardly no experience am I having to answer to this guy? Why is this guy over here making way more money than I am with a fraction of the experience and knowledge,
Hmm.
right?
It can be insulting when you've put in the time
Yep.
and you know your worth. And so then when you're having to explain to that guy how to do his job,
Yep.
and so it's like that's where it's like this isn't making sense. But I think that we have a lot of broken links in the industry, and I'm very like I'm impartial. I like to be uplifting, but I can be
Yeah.
construct if it's criticism, it's constructive.
Right.
It's like this is a way to make everything more efficient, more like working together better, because when you have all that animosity, then people's mental health is suffering and work production goes down, and that just that feeling like you belong
Yeah.
to a company or at a
Right.
job, like morale is a big
Yep.
thing in the industry, and I think there's a lot of people like out of sight out of mind that they maybe they don't necessarily go to the field or they haven't experienced that, they don't understand the tax that people pay just to be in their roles and to be working in their jobs. And so it's like a little bit of that support
Right.
and community goes a long way. And so when you're seeing it over and over again where it's like you can tell this guy doesn't know what he's doing, you can tell he's not experienced, he's looking at the wrong thing, he's not asking the right questions, and then you're almost 3 decades into the industry saying, hey, like, that's not right. And
Right.
so it's like, it's good to raise questions. It's hard to have the conversation because a lot of people
Right.
just, want everything ignored. It's like, this is the way it's going to be done, like it or not. And that's not necessarily, an aspect of the industry that is going to keep it, moving forward and,
Right.
together like it should
Yeah.
be.
And it's definitely like a good old boy system or a click system in a lot of the trades and industries. I mean, I think it's just there.
It's just there.
Right.
It's who you know. It's who you grew up
Yep.
with. It's who's in your family.
That's how it is now.
It's who's in your networking group, and so it's like it's good because you want to work with the people you know, but train
Right.
those people
Yep.
or get, at least look at the people with the experience also, like make sure that you're making the decision based on merit, not just on personal
Yeah, because people
relationship.
are going to ask like, well, why doesn't he respect me? Well, there's a couple of reasons why I don't respect you, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a political person. Either like me or you don't, but I'm going to come in and do my job, and I'm going to do it extremely well.
Right. Well, and and I've had it before where the better you do your job, the more that shines a light on someone that's not doing theirs.
Yep.
And that can cause a riff when it comes to being politically correct.
Oh yeah. And another thing is to you become great at something, right? And then they start piling on more responsibility on you as
Oh, I've
well.
done that. I've made
So
that mistake where I'm like feeling valuable at first
yep.
and then it's about to kill me. You're going to collapse under the pressure, but then they're looking at you like, "Well, you should be doing all of this work like, it's just expected
Right.
after a certain point."
Yeah.
And then you end up either leaving or being resentful or taking it home with you. I think you mentioned that before that,
Yep.
taking things home with you where it's like you already need to go home and recharge. You don't need to take the problems and the like those things that are happening on location back to your family when you're already traveling and you're
Yeah.
already putting in all that time.
Yeah. It's a lot of stress on your body because like I gotta tell a lot of people, it's you don't realize, but you do so much whenever you're out there in such a short period of time because in all reality you don't have a lot of free time to yourself because either you're sleeping or you're working,
Yeah.
right? And then in between there you're trying to find times to eat
Mm-hmm.
and then have maybe a little time for yourself, and if you have family back home, of course, call and FaceTime and all that. So it's just a bunch of repetitiveness every single day, and it wears on you.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, have you always, because I know something else that we talked about as far as like, wearing on you and taking care of yourself on the road, has fitness always been a priority or did that kind of come with
Uh,
uh,
probably,
time?
I'd probably say almost maybe 12, 13 years ago, it started to really become a priority of mine. Yeah, I just wanted to get healthy one day. I realized I was eating a bunch of crap, and
Mm-hmm.
just really wasn't taking care of myself and wanted to feel better. So I kind of just took it from there, and now it's a part of my everyday life. Um, Everyone around me will tell you, like, if I don't go to the gym, then it ruins my day. You
And you
know,
can feel it.
I
You
do.
can you can tell.
Yes, I go every morning. Well, when I'm home, I go every morning. It starts my day off right, and I feel great, feel charged up and rejuvenated, and
Mm-hmm.
it just gives you a good complex about yourself. For me, it does.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
of course, when I'm at work, I don't care how long I work that day. I work out afterwards. I don't care. That's non-negotiable for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That, I've seen that. I mean, that's such a struggle on the road too, because it's so easy at the end of the day to drink a beer
Yeah.
and hang out
Right.
compared to making yourself go to the gym and work out.
Yes. Yeah. For me, I don't go out to eat. I don't. I might occasionally, but I mean, it's very rare that I will. Like it's a definitely non-negotiable. It's a priority of mine that I do. I go to the gym. I eat my dinner. I FaceTime my family like that. That's my priorities. I don't know how guys can go out and drink and stuff. I mean, nothing to. I mean, against them. If that's what
You
they do.
just don't know how they can physically
I
do
can't.
it.
I can't do that. Right.
Yeah.
That's just not me. I like to be in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock every night.
Mm-hmm.
I like my sleep, and I like to wake up feeling good.
Fresh.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've had both, where it's like you make the right decisions and you feel good and you wake up ready to go. But if you go out, I mean, I don't drink anymore. I used to drink. I can't drink anymore. Like
Yeah.
it makes me feel so sick, and there's nothing satisfying about it at all. But I see guys, and I've known so many guys where it's like that's just what you do. It's like everybody's just gathered around the same truck in the trailer park, just drinking. Oh, I can drink a 12 pack and it doesn't affect me, or going to the bar, going out to eat, and then staying out late and
Yeah.
getting up early. But I think that you can enjoy that kind of lifestyle. Like if that's what you like to do, or you don't have the family back home, or
Right.
it can be a form of escapism.
Yeah,
and it can definitely be, it can be like a companion
for sure.
where it's like you're something to look forward to at the end of every day,
Yep.
because there is that dopamine hit of knowing you're going to crack open that beer and then you're going to be
Yeah,
chilling,
you
and
get your
it's
second wind.
and you get your second
Yeah.
wind, and then if you've got that one fun friend that's always stirring the pot and wanting everybody to go out and do what they do. But I think when you have a family back home and you prioritize
Right.
that, and you prioritize your health, you feel better knowing that you're in bed at 8 o'clock ready to rock
Yeah.
and roll the next morning
Right.
than messing yourself up because you're
Yeah.
not going to feel good the next
Right.
day.
I mean, because for me, like family is priority, right? My actions reflect them. So if I do something retarded, that's going to affect everything back home, right? And then the
Yeah.
money stops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you have to make those disciplined
right,
choices.
consequences, right? I don't.
Huge
Yes. And
consequences.
for me, like in the consulting world, right? I mean, you may not just be able to go get another job the next day.
Right.
I mean, there is a lot of people out there wanting a consulting job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot of competition. So you mess one of those up, who knows when you're going to get another try at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, or like we said before, you're going to have to go backwards and go back to a
Yeah,
field
and
related
that
position.
a lot of guys, that's hard to do, to be humbled back into a
Yes,
lower position,
and especially with the pay difference.
and the pay
I have
difference.
I've
Yeah.
had various of pay differences even as consulting. Different operators pay different day rates.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
I
then
mean,
you kind of gotta, I mean, what you've got to do to
right,
take care of your family,
yeah,
to take care of yourself. So,
right,
like, I think just, having that mindset and knowing, like, what's at stake,
yes,
it's kind of like what we talked about in the beginning. It's, complacency kills.
yes,
One bad judgment call can ruin your whole,
right,
like, your whole lifestyle.
yeah. And for me, as a representative of an operator, right? For me, I'm the face. I'm one of the first people see on location, so I always want it to be like a positive altercation, even if there's something negative in there. Like I'm always gonna make it be a positive outcome.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. And people always talk bad about companies. Well, all that company's bad, but it's not the company that's bad. It's the people that represent that company that makes it bad,
Oh,
right? That's the way I
absolutely.
look at it,
Yeah,
right? So I look at it
definitely.
as I'm a representative, so I'm taking it as my business because it kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
You're overseeing a well site, right? So that's all my responsibility, right?
Right.
And then if you're over AFEs and money and all other things like that too, like you got to look at it as, hey, this is my bank account too. You
Mm-hmm.
got to take care of all that,
Yeah, and that's a good way to frame it too,
right?
because it's very easy to say, "Well, it's not my money."
Yeah,
You get paid by the day, but people say, "I get paid
right.
by the hour." Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where it's like just not having that sense of pride or responsibility,
right.
but knowing that what you do is not just affecting the company that you work for, you're setting the tone for everyone on location.
Yes,
This is the impression people have of you that could affect future work, guys that you're working with. Like there's a lot of variables there.
right. I used to work for a company, man, that he used to say his motto was a hating rig's a working rig. And he'd get everybody pissed off for the day, so they would just shut up and
Oh,
work.
yeah,
And that was
that's
miserable, right?
terrible.
Yeah,
But I mean, I get it,
right.
but
And every day it was just, oh, it was terrible,
yeah.
But so that's why I always try to change. That was my goal and objectives, especially like whenever, I don't know how to say this, but so whenever I started getting like a following on TikTok, right? And guys are going to come to location. So I always try to put like a different message out there, like just make it positive,
Hmm.
because you just never know what someone's going through as well.
Yeah,
I mean, it's already
absolutely.
hard enough being out there and doing what we do and putting in the hours and things. So I try to change the whole outlook and perspective. At least while you're on my location,
Hmm.
we'll have a positive outlook on things.
Yeah,
I like
definitely.
I said, I like to be approachable. So
Yeah, very
right,
cool. Well, I
yeah,
appreciate that because, like I said, for the longest time, like I've followed you and I've watched your stuff, but I really wasn't sure. I didn't even know really like, where you were at
yeah,
as far as like, where you were working or, where you live, if it would even be possible for you to come
right,
on the podcast, but I'm
yeah.
glad you were able to.
Yeah, I went even far as maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours, I think it was, something like that. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, when I moved the podcast from Midland to Fort Worth, I worried that it wouldn't be as accessible, but it's actually more accessible for some.
Yeah,
It's something that you can do when you're not working.
right.
So I was trying to make it to where people that were in the field could come to the Midland studio, and a couple guys did, but it's still just as hard, because it's like you're having to come in on a Sunday, or you're 2 hours from Midland, or 3 hours,
Yes.
and so it's not necessarily more convenient.
Right.
That's just the schedule, and that's just what it is when you work in the field. You've got hours to drive,
Yeah.
and that's just how we do it.
Yeah, I know some of my guys. They stay sometimes 2 hours away from location and have to drive that every day to and from.
I've met guys that say if it's less than 100 miles from the house, are going to drive it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would too. I think
I
I've
I
I've
think
done
I
it
would.
before.
It'd be just like where I live. I think it'd be almost not as far, but close.
It would be, well,
Right.
because then you start weighing that out. It's
Yeah.
like, are you really just 2 and a half hours away from home, and you're going to have somewhere else you're staying, and
Yeah.
you just kind of start. It's really what else you're going to be doing,
Right.
and then you do get conditioned for the driving,
Yes.
where it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's that
I
far.
mean, if somebody can be home every night, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I would.
absolutely.
I mean, there might be a couple of nights I might stay.
Right,
You
just to
know.
kind of recharge a
Right.
little bit, but
Yeah, but other than that, I would drive it for sure.
yeah, yeah, awesome. Well, Brian, I've really enjoyed this. I really appreciate what you do, and love what you've got going with the blue collar standard. I do hope we see more of that. I understand the burnout, but we do need the leadership
Yeah.
in this part of the industry.
Yeah, we definitely got some stuff working now. I finally kind of got myself in gear, so hopefully
Yeah,
that'll be soon. But yeah, I've enjoyed being here, so thank you for having me.
yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again,
Yeah.
and thank you everyone for watching Power of the Permian. We'll see you next time.